all these incredible AI models changing our world, right? Well, behind the scenes, there's an even bigger story brewing. It's a high-stakes, super strategic battle for the hardware that makes it all possible. We're talking about the great AI hardware war. And trust me, the outcome here is going to define the next decade of tech. This quote from Gavin Baker just nails it. I've never seen anything like it. And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around this whole thing is to picture it like a massive game of chess. You've got these brilliant players, the stakes are, well, they're existential, and every single move is calculated for maximum impact. Everyone knows the rules, and everyone knows exactly what they're playing for. All right, let's set the stage for what is seriously the battle of the century. So, what's this fight really about? I mean, it's easy to think, oh, they're just building faster computers, but it's so much more than that. This is a strategic showdown between absolute titans with billions, and I mean billions of dollars on the line. And the entire future of AI is just hanging in the balance. Okay, so who's on the board? First up, you've got the king, the incumbent, Nvidia. Their GPUs, they power basically everything. Then you've got the challenger, Google, coming in with their own custom-built chips, these TPUs. And then you have the frontier labs, think OpenAI, Gemini, Anthropic, xAI. These are the companies on the front lines. They're both the customers and key allies in this fight. And every single one of them is making these huge strategic moves in what has become, for them, a life or death game. So every game has rules, right? Well, in the world of AI, the rules of the game are all about this incredibly powerful, kind of mysterious principle known as scaling laws. And if you want to understand the moves everyone's making on the board, you have to understand these. So what are they? Basically, it's an empirical observation. As you add more computing power and more data, the AI's performance gets better in a really predictable way. But here's the crazy part, and the key word is observation. These aren't like the laws of physics. We know that they work. You throw more compute at a model, you get a better model. Simple. But what's wild is that nobody, and I mean nobody, on the entire planet truly knows why they work. It's like a predictable miracle we can measure. And this quote, this just perfectly captures it. Comparing our understanding to the ancient Egyptians' understanding of the sun, it's brilliant. We have perfect measurement. We can predict the sunrise of a new, more powerful AI model with insane accuracy. But because we have no idea how or why it actually works, every single one of these massive, expensive training runs is basically an act of faith. You're just betting that the sun will rise again. Okay, let's get to the main event. This is where it all comes together. The entire hardware war really boils down to this epic clash between two champions, Nvidia's GPUs versus Google's TPUs. Two giants with two totally different strategies for how to win. So on one side, you have Nvidia's GPUs. They're the industry standard for a reason, right? They're just ridiculously powerful and super versatile, a full-stack solution. But then you have Google. They went a different route. They built their own custom chip, the TPU, which gave them this powerful in-house advantage, a unique strategic weapon that nobody else can get their hands on. And this fundamental difference in hardware, it led to two completely different battle plans. And this created a really interesting standoff. For what might be the first time in high-tech history, being the low-cost producer suddenly became the killer advantage. See, because Google had its own TPUs, they could produce AI responses, what we call tokens, way cheaper than anyone else. Everyone else was desperately seeking high performance and paying a premium for it from Nvidia. So what was Google's tactic? They ran their AI at a loss, a negative 30% margin. Their goal was to just suck all the economic oxygen out of the ecosystem, making lives absolutely miserable for competitors like OpenAI. But the game was about to change. Just when it looked like Google had this unbeatable low-cost advantage, Nvidia was getting ready to make its next big move. A counterattack, a brand new next-generation chip called Blackwell, designed not just to be a little bit more powerful, but to completely upend the entire board and rewrite the rules of the game. Yeah, and this quote just perfectly sums up how insane this transition was. Imagine if to get a new iPhone, you had to change all the outlets in your house, put in a Tesla Powerwall, and then reinforce the floor. That's literally what this was like. This wasn't just a simple upgrade. This was probably the most complex product transition in the history of tech. We're talking about a massive shift from air cooling to liquid cooling. The racks went from weighing 1,000 pounds to over 3,000 pounds. They ate up 4 times the power. It was an absolutely monumental undertaking. So here's how Blackwell completely flips the board. By late 2025, a company like xAI gets the first big deployment, and they'll work with Nvidia to iron out all the bugs. Then, by early 2026, we expect to see the first AI models actually trained on Blackwell, and they're going to be a huge leap in capability. And here's the kicker. By the middle of 2026, the entire cost advantage flips. The companies using Blackwell, they become the new low-cost producers of AI tokens. Just like that, Google's main strategic advantage, poof, it's set to completely disappear. So, what's the payoff? Why should any of us care about this nerdy hardware war? What does the winner actually get? Well, the most important thing to understand is that this insane arms race, it produces a massive global human dividend. It's a huge win for the rest of us. $400 billion. That's a huge number, right? Well, that's the size of the customer support industry. And already, at some of the more tech-forward companies, AI is handling over half of all customer inquiries. This is just one of the very first industries getting totally turned on its head. And it's all happening because the cost of doing this stuff, the cost of AI, is just plummeting thanks to this competition. And believe me, it is not stopping there. We are right on the edge of having AI assistants that can actually book your flights, your hotels, your Ubers, for real. We're talking about hyper-persuasive AI for sales, a massive acceleration in robotics, and any business function where you can verify the outcome, think accounting, logistics, you name it. All of the stuff that used to be science fiction, it's becoming reality right now because this hardware war is making it cheap enough to actually do.
And this quote from Andrej Karpathy is really the core principle here. With AI, anything you can verify, you can automate. Think about it. Did the accounting books balance? It's a yes or no question. Did the customer actually buy the thing? Yes or no. If you can define success in a way that you can check, you can verify it, then an AI can learn how to do it. It's that simple concept that's unlocking automation across almost every industry you can think of.
Okay, so as this game on Earth just gets more and more intense, some of the biggest players are already looking ahead to the next arena, the final frontier. Because the ultimate endgame for this AI hardware war, it might not be on Earth at all. So let's just step back and think for a second. What if you could get rid of the two fundamental constraints of building a massive data center? Power and cooling. If you really think about it from a first principles point of view, Earth is actually a pretty terrible place to build one. The two biggest headaches are always getting enough power and then figuring out how to get rid of all the heat it generates. But what if you could just make those problems disappear? And this is where things get really wild. Let's compare Earth versus space. Power on Earth is limited. In space, you get 6 times more solar energy, 24/7 with no need for batteries. What about cooling? It's expensive and super complex down here. But in space, it's free. You just radiate all that heat out into the absolute zero of the void. And speed? Fiber optics are fast, sure. But lasers communicating through the perfect vacuum of space? Even faster. Space just, it solves the two biggest problems for AI compute at a fundamental level. And that leads to this incredible conclusion. In every way, data centers in space are superior to data centers on Earth. That's the provocative endgame we're looking at, a future where the heart of artificial intelligence, the very thing we're building, isn't even bound by the limitations of our own planet. So yeah, the great AI hardware war is absolutely reshaping our world today, but it's already setting the stage for a whole new game to be played up there among the stars.